Alrighty lads, it's me, Alex from the Back4 podcast, and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video on my channel. Now, as of the time of me recording, it is currently January 18th, meaning that the A-League transfer window has been open for 3 days now, and heaps of clubs are already making early moves to get their signings sorted for January, but I wanted to make a quick video discussing one signing I think every A-League team should make if they want to improve the second half of their season. Some maybe even push for finals, some carry them away from the bottom of the table, and some push for an A-League title this season. So I'm going to go through all 13 A-League clubs, and I'm going to list off one signing that I think could improve their starting 11 or just add some really good depth to their squad. Could be a good signing for the future, could be a good signing now. But one signing that I think every club really should look at making that I think can improve their squad and improve their chances of whatever their ambitions are this season. So to kick things off, let's get started with Adelaide. Now, Adelaide United are normally a really good team to watch as a neutral, and it's no different this season as they are easily the most exciting attacking team in the league this season. They've scored 2.4 goals a game on average. They're playing a brilliant style of football under Carl Viet, and they're unearthing plenty of good young players. Ethan Alagic, as well as Luka Jovanovic and Archie Goodwin, have all had brilliant seasons, along with Kikianis and many other young players that are finally starting to take massive strides towards possible Socceroos call-ups and whatnot. But Adelaide are a team that I think could use a bit more firepower. Now, you'd say, Alex, why would you need more firepower in this Adelaide side? They score 2.4 goals a game. They lead the league in goals scored. And while that's true, and I was initially going to say that Adelaide needed some defensive reinforcements, a massive opportunity opened itself up that I think could be a really good opportunity for Adelaide to attack, and that is going to be the signing of Our Mobile. Now, while I acknowledge that Adelaide has a really good side right now with pretty good attacking depth, especially on the wings, I do think that this is a great opportunity that I don't think that they can pass up. Now, they do have Zach Clough, which is a brilliant player for them. He's been playing fantastically this season, as he has been since he signed for the club. But plenty of young players are coming through the Adelaide Academy. For example, Amani Tatu, who I think is going to be an absolutely brilliant winger and could be a very, very good young prospect that you would want learning off of an Australian, an experienced winger who has had plenty of good international experience, and I think Our Mobile could be that guy. Now, I'm not thinking to bring in Mobile just for the sake of the youngsters learning off of him. He adds immediate starting quality to that Adelaide United side, can play on either wing, and he himself has lots to prove. He's lost his spot in the Socceroos, he hasn't had consistent game time at Grasshoppers in Switzerland, and now he needs a move away. What better place to come back to the only club he's played for in the A-League, Adelaide United, to finally get back that shine, to push for a spot in the Socceroos going towards the next World Cup campaign. This is a real opportunity that Adelaide should be going at, and Our Mobile, I think he'd jump at the opportunity if it arose. So I think this could be a really good shot. It would be a smart move for Adelaide, and yes, while there may be more problematic areas to address, I feel like they've been relatively okay in midfield. Alagic has been performing really well, and in defense, I think they want to put some more faith in guys like Kikianis and Parias, which makes it really difficult for me to justify signing some more visas or signing any experienced A-League defenders. Maybe Thomas Deng could be one that they look at, but I think Our Mobile makes way too much sense not to go for. I'm picking him as my Adelaide signing. Now, next up is Auckland, and if I'm going to be completely honest, if I had to pick a side that probably didn't have to make any more signings going into this window, it would have been Auckland, but they've announced the signing of Marley Francois, who I think is a great young pickup for them, has a lot of potential, wasn't really getting much game time over in England, and really has an opportunity to impress and to improve. And if I had to pick any players to sign for Auckland, I would be thinking of some young New Zealanders who can possibly take the next step forward in their career, but at this time, not a lot of them are actually looking to move. Now, I am mindful of the fact that Auckland were in for a number of players that they just didn't manage to get hold of. Sarpreet Singh, for example, was a player who wasn't playing much in Germany, but has since made a move to Portugal's second division, where, to be fair, he is performing fairly well. So I'd say that rules him out of a move. Matt Dibley-Diaz, a player who I would have suggested for Auckland, is on loan at Northampton, which rules him out of a move. Hey guys, I'm just jumping into this to say that Dibley-Diaz is no longer on loan at Northampton, and I think he'd be a great signing for Auckland, but I don't mention it in this video because I'm a big dumbass and I didn't realize he had left his loan, so he's back at Fulham now, would be a good move. Let's continue with the video. So I'm going to settle on a player that's maybe a bit out of left field, but a signing that I still think could add some really good quality to this Auckland side, and that is going to be Elijah Just. Now, for those of you that don't know Elijah Just, he's a winger from New Zealand. He is 24 years of age, and he is currently applying his trade in the second Austrian division. Now, while that may not sound like a good level, Elijah Just is a very, very high quality winger. He spent time with the New Zealand national setup, and I think he can be a really good player for Auckland to maybe tie down on a 2.5-year deal. Now, let's be honest, they have some very, very good attacking depth. The likes of Gillian, Rogerson, and many other young wingers that they are bringing through right now. Maybe makes a move for Elijah Just not make heaps of sense, but I still think he's got some good starting quality that could really add some great sort of technique, on the ball ability, and real creativity to this Auckland setup, which I feel at times is missing. Now, for a team that's near the top of the A-League ladder, you really have to sort of be picky with what you're looking for. And Auckland are easily, I'd say, the best defensive team in the league. They've got fantastic defensive midfielders in Vestrada and Galagos, and their back four is phenomenal. Pinnock has been brilliant. De Vries has been easily the best left back in the league this season. Alex Poulsen's easily the best goalkeeper in the league. And supporting roles from guys like Tommy Smith and their captain Hiroki Sakai has just made this team absolutely phenomenal. Now, with that, you don't need defensive reinforcements. You don't need midfield reinforcements, so you have to look in other areas. Maybe a striker if you wanted to, cut the loan of Max Matter short, but I probably wouldn't go that far. So the next best thing for me, personally, I would think, would be another winger or maybe a backup cam. And I think Elijah Just has a lot of qualities that you'd be looking for in this Auckland side in terms of his creativity, his on-the-ball ability, and I think he could be a really good pickup if Auckland could get it done. Moving on to Brisbane Roar, where I have gone for left back who has just been released from Houston Dynamo. I've gone for Brad Smith. Now, Brad Smith is 30 years of age now and has just become a free agent, like I said, after leaving Houston Dynamo. But I really think that he could be a good pickup for any A-League side, and in particular Brisbane. Now, Brisbane have lost Harry van der Sarg. He had his contract terminated mutually, which means they are short a fullback. Now, they have been playing a number of people at fullback this season, Zabala, for example, and Bert Gilroy, and as I'm recording this video right now, I'm literally watching Sydney versus Brisbane in the background, and Sydney are losing, so I'm not very happy about it. But that's aside. Bert Gilroy is easily their best fullback. Let's just put that out there. Brisbane are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They've had a massive injury to Ben Warland, which is ruling him out for the rest of the A-League season, which is not good for them at all. So they need more defensive depth. And I think Brad Smith is a good opportunity for someone to bring in. Now, maybe he is past that sort of Socceroos quality. You have way too many good young left backs coming through, such as Moragas, Farrell, Jordan Boss, Casey Boss. So I don't really see Brad Smith getting back into the national team setup, but he's an experienced fullback who I think would be achievable if you were looking to bring in a player to Brisbane. I don't think that they would have heaps of money right now to bring in signings, considering that the Backeries are notoriously stingy, but I feel like Smith is someone who has probably made his money in the MLS and is probably looking to come back to Australia and maybe settle down a bit more and just finish off his career. So I think this could be a smart move for Brisbane to make. Personally, I would have loved Glory to go for him as a left back, considering we've had problems there this season, but I feel like a move to Brisbane for Brad Smith makes a lot more sense. Now, moving on to what I think is easily one of the most disappointing teams in the A-League this season. No, it is not my club, Perth Glory, but it is the Central Coast Mariners. Now, Central Coast have had some serious problems this season, and let's be honest, their whole sort of signing strategy of signing maybe out of left field visas and younger players that they can sort of mold into these great rotation or squad players has worked in the past, and we've seen that with the fact that they won a treble last year. But this season, it really hasn't worked. They linger towards the bottom half of the table, and they really need some good sort of firepower coming to their team as they have some troubles creating. Alu Kual has been okay with scoring, but in terms of their creativity, they haven't had much. McCalmont has done his best. Guys like Theo Horace has been okay. Mikel Docker has been decent, but their problems for me really lie in their creativity. And for that reason, I'm going to suggest the signing of Max Burgess. Now, Burgess is someone who has seemingly been frozen out of the Sydney FC squad by Ufuk Talay. He hasn't played any games this season, and there are a number of A-League clubs that are clamoring to earn his signing, and I think the Central Coast Mariners could be in for him. Now, him staying in New South Wales would be a good move for him. I'm assuming. I was going to say that he would be a good move for the Glory, but with the emergence of Jalen Pearman, I don't think it makes sense for him to move. And there's not a lot of clubs in the A-League that would be looking in particular for a starting cam or, a starting 10, for example, or even a left winger for what Max Burgess has proven he can play before. So for that reason, I think he could be a very good pickup for the Mariners, as they clearly lack creativity. He's a great workhorse midfielder. He always puts in effort. He's got an eye for goal when needed, and he could really sort out some of the Mariners' offensive problems. I think he'd be a great signing. I think Sydney would be able to mutual him without doubt, considering that he's obviously not in Talai's plans. So this could be a smart pickup for the Mariners. A real no-brainer, really. You don't have to think too hard about this one. The Mariners need a cam, Burgess needs game time, and Sydney need to get Burgess off the books. So make it happen. Now, next up is MacArthur, where I'm going to say that they have to sign a centre-back. Now, listen, MacArthur have been good this season, and I think defensively they haven't even been that bad. Oliver Jones has really stepped up for them. He's done well, but I feel like they could use a more experienced partner alongside Aslanigic, and maybe someone who's a bit better on the ball. And for that reason, I've suggested the signing of Joshua Laws. Now, Joshua Laws is a phenomenal centre-back, born in Scotland, but is holding Australian citizenship currently, so can just play in the A-League without having to take up a visa spot. He's someone who hasn't really been given an opportunity yet with the Socceroos, and I think a move to the A-League is going to be big for him if he is looking to make an international appearance at some point. He is 26 years old, but he has just got done with a stint for Grasshoppers, our Mobile's current team, in Switzerland, where I think he did fairly well. If anything, I'm very surprised that he hasn't been given his opportunity in the Socceroos yet, because he's been a consistent performer in Europe, and I really think he should have been given an opportunity, but now is his time to make the move to Australia and to really catch the eye of Tony Popovich and the Socceroos selectors. Now, why MacArthur in particular do I think should go for Joshua Laws? Well, one, I think they need a left-sided centre-half. Josh Laws is left-footed and played left-sided centre-half / left back when playing for Grasshoppers. He's experienced enough. He's 26 years of age, entering the prime years of his career. And I think MacArthur could really shore up their defense with another starting defensive pickup. So it makes sense for me. There are plenty of other sides in the A-League that could probably use a centre-back, such as maybe Adelaide or Perth Glory, for example. Maybe even teams like Sydney FC or Western Sydney Wanderers. But I've got some picks coming that you guys might find interesting for those teams. But look, in terms of Josh Laws, I think it's leaning towards him going to Perth Glory at this stage. The only reason I say that is because obviously we had those sightings of him talking to Stan Lazaridis at the Perth Glory versus Sydney FC game. So look, all signs do point towards him going to Perth Glory, but I still think he'd be an insanely smart pickup for MacArthur if they can make it happen. Do they have the coin for it? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it would be a good pickup for them, and if they are going to win an A-League title or challenge for finals or just have a really good season, I think they need one more experienced centre-back, and I think Josh Laws is that guy. Now, next up is Melbourne City, and in terms of out-of-left-field picks for signings, this is probably going to be the biggest one of the video, but I think that it is a signing that makes sense for Melbourne City, and one that I would personally really like to see happen at an A-League club, and that is going to be the signing of Jonathan Vieira. Now, I think Melbourne City really do need that sort of creative 10 that's going to really drive their team forward to creating reason. I feel like Melbourne City at the moment lack a bit of creativity, and I feel like an experienced European cam is such... Now, I think he wouldn't be opposed to a move to Australia, and the only reason I say that is because he is 35 years of age and currently a free agent, and he's had multiple stints away from his native Spain, 3 years for Beijing in China, as well as a stint in the UAE, makes me feel like maybe he has earned the... Am I saying purely that you have to go for Jonathan Vieira and no one else? Obviously not. I think a marquee number 10 would be their best option. I think if you maybe get Cohen or Cohen off the books because of their long-term injuries, it might be smart. But if you don't want to do that, I would still recommend going for a marquee 10. I really think that's the best idea going forward for Melbourne City. And I think Jonathan Vieira sort of tops that pile for me. Obviously, there's other names out there, but I really don't see anyone else who would be relatively achievable that's currently a free agent. I think Vieira would be. But let's see what happens there. I think that is a smart play for Melbourne City to go for a more experienced 10 that can create chances for guys like Suleimani, Mehmeti, Matseo, and, others. But They've got a very young squad right now. Aurelio Vidmar's done very well with the injury crisis, but I think it's time that you back him and you splash the cash on a quality signing. Jonathan Vieira is your man. Next up is Melbourne Victory, and I have gone for a current Socceroo and what I think is easily one of the most anticipated signings across all of Australian football right now. That is Thomas Deng. Well, boys, this one is just painful in every degree. And the time it's taken me to film this video and edit everything, Thomas Deng has signed for Yokohama F. Marinos in Japan, which means he's no longer available for Melbourne Victory. So I'm going to give what I think is just sort of my brief suggestion on the best next possible option, which would be Gethin Jones from Bolton. Now, his contract expires in 6 months, obviously has played for the Australian national team before at the last Asian Cup, and I thought he actually did quite okay, so would be a good signing for the Victory. Apparently a lot of Australian clubs are interested. I'm hoping we get him at the Perth Glory personally. He's said before that he is a Perth boy, so hopefully we can get that done, but I think it'd be a good signing for Melbourne Victory. Defensively solid, can create going forward as well, so would be sort of an ideal replacement for Jason Guerrier. I think it'd be a good smart pickup. I think they could also get it done if Bolton wouldn't mind getting rid of him 6 months before his contract ended. So, yeah, apologies for taking too long. I had a whole section on Deng, but I'm going to cut it all out now because there's no point. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. Now, next up is the Newcastle Jets. And with the Jets, they're in an odd position where you could genuinely make an argument that they have to sign a player for any position at all. But I feel like I've settled on one player that makes sense for the Jets to go for them as a target, makes sense for the player to want to move to the A-League. I'm going to suggest Anthony Calick. Now, while some of you may say, Alex, why would Calick want to move to the A-League? He plays for Hajduk Split as a starter in Croatia's top flight. I completely agree. And he would be stupid to move to the A-League. But I have a feeling like the Jets could get it done, or any A-League team could get it done. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Calick is 27, entering the prime years of his career, but he's not yet made an appearance for the Socceroos. Now, what better way to get into the Socceroos than coming to Australia and dominating the A-League? And now, while I know he is at Hajduk, he is playing well, he is starting, he's getting plenty of game time, he's not particularly scoring that many goals or registering that many assists, which is why I think he's being kept out of the eyes of Graham Arnold or Tony Popovich. So what better way to get some eyes on him than to come back to the A-League for a struggling Newcastle Jets side that lacks creativity and to sort of be that driving force behind them pushing towards mid-table. I feel like this could be a really good opportunity for Anthony Calick to finally get eyes on him. He's entering the prime years of his career, as I said, which means that he is running out of time to sort of establish a starting spot or even a squad spot for the Socceroos. But considering that the Socceroos are having some struggles right now in terms of their attacking midfielders, Riley McGree, obviously, on and off with injury, Adam Hrustic is not doing well at all at the moment, and Dennis Genro can't get a look in for the Socceroos whatsoever, I feel like Anthony Calick really has an opportunity here to sort of establish himself and push towards a starting spot, if not a squad spot, for the Socceroos. Now, the only way I can see him doing that is if he starts putting up crazy numbers in Croatia, or if he makes a move to the A-League. And while I necessarily think he could play for a team much, much better than the Newcastle Jets, the Jets lack creativity, and I do feel like many of the other teams have already sorted out those problems. So Calick makes sense to me. Bring him to the A-League. I'd love to see him here personally, but I think it makes sense for the Jets, for Calick, and for me, so I've chosen Anthony Calick as the Jets' pick. Now, next up is going to be my club, the Perth Glory, and one player that I have been absolutely clamoring for, along with every Glory fan in recent years, to return to the club finally is going to be Alex Grant. Now, Alex Grant finds himself in a bit of a strange position. He's in China right now, not really necessarily a starter for his side, and on top of that, he's seemingly been frozen out of all plans for the Socceroos, but he's got a bit of a chance now. Alessandro Cacciati and Harry Sutar both suffered long-term injuries, which is awful for the Socceroos, and I'm bricking it when it comes to our next games against Indonesia and Japan and China and Saudi Arabia. However, it could present an opportunity for Alex Grant to get himself back into the national team setup. I believe he is a much better centre-back than the likes of Kai Rowles, who we've seen playing down the left centre-back side for the Socceroos, and this could finally be a chance for him to establish himself as a Socceroos pick. I don't think he's going to be able to get that playing in China, but I do think a move to Australia makes sense. He is a Perth boy, he is 30 years old, and I feel like he's sort of at that stage in his career where he is going to be looking for one final move back to the A-League to sort of stick it out for the next 3-4 years and then settle down and eventually retire. And I think an opportunity at Perth could be exactly what he needs. Now, you can say to me, Alex, Perth have just signed Masao, who is a left-sided centre-back. They've just signed Okamoto, who is a right-sided centre-back. They have Tommy Murchela, they have Andriano Labib, they have Zach Lizalaiski, but I don't feel like any of those players whatsoever are better than Alex Grant and make more sense than Alex Grant. Murchela is not going to play past this season. Labib is still 18 years old. Masao is going to be played at left-back most likely, and Okamoto is 5'7", so I doubt he's even going to play centre-back whatsoever. Lizalaiski's been deployed mostly as a left-back, and even then is still only 19, so what better way to teach a youngster like Zach Lizalaiski and to add more starting quality than to bring back a local Perth boy who's got bags of quality and has a point to prove to get back into the Socceroos lineup. Alex Grant, I want to see him back at Perth Glory. Now, I'm going to cheat here a bit, and I'm going to say that two clubs should go after the exact same player, and those two clubs are going to be the biggest derby in the entire country. It is going to be Sydney and Western Sydney Wanderers going after Milos Degenek. Now, I feel both sides are in serious need for a centre-back. Obviously, with the Wanderers' foreign pickup Jong having a long-term injury and reportedly not being back in training for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I feel like it could be a really good time for them to make some big defensive reinforcements. They lost Tom Beadling, obviously, towards the start of the season, and the reason that I didn't pick any other A-League side to go for him is because the reasoning was he wanted to leave Australia because his family couldn't get visas, so I doubt that he would want to sign for another Australian club. So it makes all the more sense that Milos Degenek would be a target for an A-League side, considering that he's struggled for game time and really needs consistent games if he is going to justify keeping a spot in the Socceroos. Now, Sydney have had consistent problems. Ufuk Talay has made some really weird decisions when it comes to their sort of squad and their lineups and everything. Alexander Popovic has just ridden the bench for multiple games in a row now. Same with Jordan Courtney-Perkins, which I really don't understand, considering that they're starting Ryan Grant at centre-back and he's just shipped forward to Brisbane as we speak. But I feel like Milos Degenek could be a really good pickup for them, especially to solve their centre-back problems, as I don't see him starting over Hayden Matthews. But I can see Hayden Matthews starting down that left centre-back side and Milos Degenek starting at right centre-back. Moving on to the Wanderers, obviously they had their massive marquee signing, John, pick up a long-term injury. Well, long-term, about a month or so. But Degenek would still be a really good pickup for them. They've lost Beadling, which means that they do need another centre-back, and Degenek could be massive for them. They've already signed Carluccio, and they've already signed a massive signing in Alex Gersbach, so why not just complete the defence right now, add Milos Degenek, and they can seriously make a case for pushing towards another A-League, well, I say another A-League title, an A-League title this season, especially when considering that one of their main issues in terms of what I truly believe this season has been their sort of defensive consistency. And understand you need a solid defense because his style of football is very high risk, very counter-attacking, and I just feel like Milos Degenek makes a lot of sense for both sides. So I'm interested to see how this one plays out. I fully expect Degenek to make a move to Australia, but who he signs for, I'm not too sure. But I'm almost certain it's going to be one of the Sydney sides, and I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Moving on to Wellington Phoenix, who I am going to suggest sign Ryan Thomas. Now, this is an interesting one, purely because Wellington now have a visa spot open after mutually terminating the contract of David Ball. But I feel like this is a really good opportunity for them to add some real midfield depth and quality. Now, Wellington have a fairly strong midfield, but Ryan Thomas is a player that's sort of struggling for game time. He's been in the Netherlands for a few years now, and I feel like it could be a good time for him to move back to the A-League, back to the A-League, move to Wellington, essentially move back to New Zealand, and to get some consistent minutes. He is 30 years old now. I don't see him losing his New Zealand national team spot anytime soon, really, because I still think he's one of their best midfielders. But You can sort of understand my perspective when I say that I feel it would be a smart move for him to move back to the A-League, considering that Wellington could really use him as a starting midfield option, and he would really benefit, I think, from getting more consistent game time, especially in his latter years, if he wants to continue being a starter for New Zealand, especially considering that the likes of Marco Stamenik and the likes of Matthew Garbett are coming through. It's going to make it really difficult for him to actually hold on to that starting spot unless he is getting consistent minutes and performing consistently well. While I do think that their first order of business for Wellington needs to be a new foreign 10, I do think that Ryan Thomas presents a good opportunity. And I don't want to be lazy and just suggest another foreign 10 like I did with Melbourne City, because that's boring. So run it up, Ryan Thomas. Let's see him back. I keep saying back in the A-League. Let's see him in the A-League with Wellington. I'd be interested to see how that goes. I'd be interested to see how he fits into that Wellington midfield, how Giancarlo Italiano can get the most out of him. But I'm sure it would be a deal that works for all parties, and it's one that certainly interests me. Finally, I'm going to go with Western United, who I am suggesting sign Bailey Wright. Now, this is a bit of a strange one, considering that Bailey Wright recently made a move to Southeast Asia, where he's probably earning heaps of money, as most Australians that go to Southeast Asia do. However, I do feel like I said with Alex Grant, this is a unique opportunity for Bailey Wright to actually make it back into the Socceroos. While I doubt that he would be one of the sort of top picks, considering that there are some younger options that might get in just ahead of him, I do feel like a move back to Australia would be a smart choice for him. And Western United, while they have been okay defensively, I feel like they're on sort of two extremes when it comes to their defense. They have some really good youngsters in terms of Dylan Leonard and Kane Vidmar, but then the next sort of best thing for them defensively are the old boys like Tomoki Imai. So what better, I guess, plan of action than to bring in an early 30s Socceroos ex-international with bags of experience that can teach the likes of Kane Vidmar and Dylan Leonard to help nurture them into becoming better centre-backs themselves. Sign them for a year and a half and just see how it goes. I don't think it could go wrong. I doubt he'd want massive money. Maybe he would, considering that you're probably luring him away from Southeast Asia where he's making a bag, but I feel like it would be a move that would entice him. And personally, it's one that I would like to see. So let's see if they can get it done. Western United, I think they need a centre-back regardless, and I think Bailey Wright could be a really good option. Lads, that's going to be the end of the video here. A bit of a shorter one. Well, I say a bit of a shorter video for me to record, because it's sort of just me here, I guess, sitting in front of you guys and just rambling off my thoughts of who this A-League club should sign and who that A-League club should sign. And look, like I said earlier, there are a couple clubs where I genuinely don't think they need to make signings. Sydney, Auckland, for example, clubs that I don't necessarily feel need the signings, but there are plenty of clubs that need another 4 or 5. Perth Glory, Newcastle Jets, Brisbane are just a few clubs that I think really need to hit the transfer window hard, and I expect them to. Glory have already done it hard so far. Pause. But they've already, progressed to making a few signings. So I expect them to make a few more along with Brisbane and Newcastle, and it's going to be quite an interesting transfer window. But I just wanted to give my thoughts on some possible players, Australian free agents, and players that I would just personally like to see come back to the A-League or to come to the A-League for the first time. I think it's going to be a really interesting transfer window. I'm looking forward to it. If you have any thoughts on signings that you think I missed out on, and if you think I'm an absolute idiot for suggesting something, make sure you let me know in the comments section below. But I want to thank you all for watching the video. I appreciate it. Let's look forward to the rest of this A-League transfer window and the rest of this A-League season. And till the next video, guys, I'll catch you later.